Hello friends, today we are gonna design a Fiverr clone using React and CSS. This is the home page. We will create this beautiful navbar that changes its background color and shows this menu when we scroll. There is an infinite slider here that shows the categories, some other homepage components, project slider, and footer. Let's open any category page, and here we have all the gig cards in this category. In the next tutorial, we will cover all these functionalities. Let's visit a single gig page. We have a slider, product and seller information, and reviews. And in this sticky box, we will show other details. Let's assume that I'm a seller. In this case, I can see my gigs. I can create a new gig. I can see my orders and messages. And I can send a new message to a customer. If you are just a member, there will be only orders and messages on this menu. And in the next tutorial, we will create a backend server. We will fetch all this data from a database and we will be able to sell or buy a service. So let me know in the comments what kind of technologies you want to see for this project. I will read them and start the next tutorial as soon as possible. By the way, it's been a long time guys since we created any projects together. It's so exciting to be back and be with you. I really appreciate the kind messages that you sent to our social media groups while I was on a vacation. And I would appreciate if you could like this video because it will really help bring the channel back to the good old days. Okay, that's all. If you are ready, let's get started. Okay, I created a new folder and here I will install my React application. Unlike last year, we will be using Vite instead of create React app. Most probably you have already heard Vite from some other React developers, but let me explain one more time why we are using Vite. The main reason is it's faster than create React app. When you make any changes in your application in development mode, it's reflected in the browser faster. And same goes for the build time. You can build your applications much faster. Create React app is a little bit slower because it uses a webpack under the hood. Anyway, I'm not gonna deep dive into details in this video. But if you want me to create any video about these topics, how React works, what's webpack, what's Vite, just let me know in the comments. But I wanna say one more thing, and create React app is not a monster. Yes, Vite is better and faster, it has many features, but you can still use CRA, especially if you don't have any complex project, there will be no big difference. Anyway, let's create our application. You can come here and say yarn create Vite. And you can set up your application, but when you do that, it's gonna give you some unnecessary files, images, and some styles. To prevent this, you can use Lama Dev's GitHub page. And in this repository, by the way, don't forget to give a star for this repository because all our projects will be in this repository this year. So it will be easier for you to follow our projects. Okay, I will come here and choose this branch. In the source folder, as you can see, there is only main file and app.js. Nothing else. It's super clean. You don't have to delete anything. You can directly start writing your code. Okay, let's include this project to our VS Code. Let's come back. I will come here and copy this link. And I will say git clone. I'm gonna install a single branch. My branch name. I will paste my link and I want to install everything in this folder. So I will say dot and they are here. Of course, we don't have our libraries. Let's install them. I will say yarn. And let's check what we are going to have. Before starting any component, we can create our pages. As you can see, this is our home page. We will have register and login pages, category page, single gig page, orders, messages, and others. Let's create them. I will come here and new folder, it's going to be pages. My first page will be home page, gigs, which is going to be our categories page, single gig page, and login register. If we are a seller, we will be able to see our gigs. So I will say my gigs, my orders, and messages, and single message page. And finally, we will be able to add new gigs. So I will say add. Let's create our files. It's going to be add.jsx, and we are going to be using SCSS file. So it's going to be add.scss. To use SCSS files, we have to install Sass first. So I'm going to say yarn add Sass. Of course, if you want to, you can use plain CSS or any UI library, but I prefer using SCSS. Okay, let's create our function. I will say new React function, and I'm going to import my CSS file here. Add.scss, and I can give here my class name. It's going to be add. Okay, basically this is our main structure, a simple function here. By the way, it's going to be .css. Okay, let's do the same thing for other pages. I'm going to do this quickly. Okay, they are ready. We have all our pages. So what I want to do is to install Eslint first. I will say yarn add Eslint, and it's going to be a dev dependency. We are going to need it that because it allows us to catch our errors quickly. You are going to see what I mean by that. Let's initialize our Eslint. I will say npx Eslint and init. Let me make this bigger. I want to check my syntax. We are going to be using import export. We are using obviously React and no TypeScript. We are running our application on the browser, and the config file should be JSON, and we are going to be using React plugin. So I will say yes, yarn, and it's going to install. Let's check here. As you can see, we have some configuration here, and let's check. Let's make a mistake here. Let's write here a function. And as you can see, it warns us that because we created this function, but we have never used it, this is why it shows this red warning. And also, if I make here any mistake, as you can see, it says unexpected keywords. There is an error here. It should be const. This is how we are using Eslint. Okay, let's delete this and we can get started. Let's see. Okay, firstly, I want to create this navbar. As you know, it's a sticky navbar, and when we scroll down, this menu appears. Let's create that. By the way, we can start our application. I will say yarn run dev. Let's click here. And as you can see, this is our application. Let's create our first component. I'm gonna shrink this. And I will come here and say components. And first component will be Navbar. JSX. And CSS. Let's create our function and import our Navbar CSS and give a class name here. Okay. To see our changes, I'm gonna go to app.js and use it here. I'll say Navbar. Like that. By the way, there's a warning here that because we are not using import React, actually we don't need that, but Eslint wants us to import this. Like that. Of course, you don't have to. You can go to your config file and get rid of this kind of warnings, but it can stay, not a problem. And let's check our application. As you can see, it's here. Firstly, I want to create a container that because we are going to give some space here to left and right. So let's say a container. We are going to have two sections. First one will be this logo section and second one will be our links. So let's say logo and one more, and it's going to be links. Let's write here a span. It's going to be our name. And one more thing, as you can see, there is a dot here. I'm going to create another span. And it's going to be just dot. So I can give here any class name. Let's say text. And one more. And it's going to be dot. Okay. By the way, this warning is just a spell check. If I do this Fiverr, it's gone, but our website name includes 2R. This is why it's blue. Don't worry about that. And what about our links? Let's see. We have 5 links here and 1 button. I will just copy and paste them. There is nothing important here. Like that. They are just spans. And I'm gonna add here a button. And it's gonna be sign in. Like that. Sorry, it's join. I'm gonna change it. And after that, we are gonna give our style. I will say join. And let's open up our CSS file here. And I'm gonna close this menu. Okay, let me shrink this. Firstly, I will say Navbar. And inside we have our container. Inside this container, logo and links divs. Inside logo, we have our text and dot. And inside links, we have our spans. Firstly, I'm gonna give here a width, 1040 pixels, but we cannot see it right now. If I center this, justify content center, as you can see, we have a space here. Let me give here a background color and you are gonna see better. Okay, as you can see, this is what we want, like here. Let's separate our items. To do that, I'm gonna give, again, display flex. This time, justify content will be space between. So it's gonna separate our items. I can give some padding here from top and bottom. Let's say 20 pixels. and 0 from left and right, like that. And what about this logo? Let's come here. Actually, I can write it here, that because it's going to affect our dot span also. Font weight bold, and I'm going to change its color. And it's going to be this green color. Like that. Perfect. What about those links? Let's come here and display flags, and I'm going to give a gap between them. As you can see, they are separated right now. By the way, I can center this button and those links. To do that, I will say align item center, and it's going to center them vertically. And I can change its font weight. Let's say 500. By the way, if you want to, you can change your font family. I checked font family of Fiverr, but they are using premium font family. So we are going to be using default one. We don't have to change it. What about this button? Let's see. As you can see, there is a border first, and when we hover over, it changes its background color. Let's do that. We don't need those spans, I think. I'm going to change it to button. And font color will be white. I'm going to give some padding, 10 to 20. And border radius is going to be 5 pixels. And I'm going to give some border. It's going to be 1 pixel, solid and white. And I will say cursor pointer so we can click. By the way, we don't have any background color. Let's change it. It's going to be transparent. Of course, we cannot see it that because we don't have any background yet. Let's go to our Navbar, our parent div, and I will say background color, this green color, like this. But as you can see, our texts are black. Let's change them. Okay, perfect. And when I hover over here, I'm going to change its background. Let's give here our hover effect. I'm going to change its background color and also border color. It's going to be our green color. Oops, there is something wrong because I forgot here this and sign, and perfect. I think I've used different font family here. It doesn't look same. Let me check this quickly. Okay, I'm using different one. Let's open up our index file here. As you can see, by default, we are using Roboto, but I'm going to add one more link here, and it's going to be Montserrat. If you check this better, have it. So I'm going to come here, find my links, and I'm going to change its font family like that. Okay, it looks much better. And what else? As you can see, we have a menu here. Let's create this quickly. By the way, those links are not clickable. For example, I cannot click on this logo. Let's handle that. Of course, you can use anchor tag here, but I don't recommend to use it. That because we are going to be navigating through our pages using React Router DOM. Let's install this. I will say yarn add React Router DOM. And after that, we will be able to use its link. Let's come here and say link. As you can see, it comes from React Router DOM. I will import and wrap my logo here, and I will write here wherever I want to go. And it's going to be homepage. Of course, it's not going to work properly. That's because we didn't wrap our application with React Router DOM. But I want to do this later. First, I want to finish this Navbar. After that, you are going to see how they work. I'm just going to comment this out for now and create my menu. Let's give here HR tag. It's going to give a line between our links and our menu. Actually, it's going to be after our container. That because it's going to contain, as you can see, all our navbar, not only container. And after that, I will say menu. Let's create here some span. Like that. We are going to change them after covering our application with React Router DOM. That's because I'm going to give a link. But for now, just for testing purpose, they can stay like that. As you can see, they are here. That's because we set display flex for this navbar. I'm going to come here and change it. As you can see, it's horizontal and it's going to be vertical. So I will say flex direction column. Like this. Let's change its style. I will say menu. Again, I'm gonna give 1400. I'm gonna give some padding from top and bottom. But as you realize, since we made our navbar vertical, this justify content is not gonna work. Instead, I'm gonna just say align items center. Okay, let's come back. I will say display flex and justify content space between. In this case, it's going to separate our links. Of course, we have only 2 links right now, but when we create more, it's going to look like this. Okay. Let's change font weight and color will be gray. By the way, I can use same font family here, like that. By the way, this HR tag looks a little bit weird. It's just a dot. Let's change it. Before this menu, I will say HR tag and its width will be 100%, height 0, and I'm gonna give some border. And it's gonna be 0.5 pixels, solid, and let's say light gray. Let me make this white for now. After that, we are going to change. Okay. As you can see, it's a little bit lighter. You can leave it like that or change it, whatever you like. Okay, it can stay like that. Okay, we have almost finished our navbar, but there is something important, and it's this scrolling effect. As you can see, we don't have menu anymore, and its color is green, but when I scroll, it becomes white, and this menu appears. To do that, we have to check if we scroll down or our navbar is still on the top. I will close here. Of course, it's red, that because we are not using yet. I will say const active, set active. We are going to be using useState hook. And at the beginning, it's going to be false. And when it's true, I'm just going to change my class name here. Let's write here a condition. I will say if it's active, the class name will be Navbar and also active. If it's not, it's going to be just Navbar. Let's give our style first and we can see better. I will come here and say one more class name, and if it's active, its background color will be white and text color will be black. Let's test. I'm gonna make this true. As you can see, it's white. If it's false, it's gonna be green. So I can write the same condition for this menu. I will come here. Let's actually take this HR also. But if you are using multiple components, don't forget to write here React fragments like that. And I'm gonna write here my condition. I will say if active, just show those components. Okay, let's make this true again. As you can see, it's here. Okay, awesome. But we are gonna trigger this effect using useEffect, and when we scroll down, it's gonna be active. Let's do that. I will say useEffect. And we are gonna be using window here. Add event listener. Normally we are not using event listeners for React applications, but there is something different here, that because we are using window, we are not using any HTML element here. So you can use event listener, it's not a big deal. So we are gonna check its scroll effect, and let's write here a function. Actually, I can create here const is active. We are gonna check whether it's active or not. And we are gonna check window.scroll y. It's gonna show us our position. So I will say if it's bigger than 0, it means we have scrolled. In this case, it's gonna be set active and true. If it's not, in this case, it's gonna be false. Let's use it here, and I'm gonna use a cleanup function here. By the way, if you didn't watch my useEffect video, I highly recommend you to watch it. If you don't know how to use useEffect properly, how to use cleanup functions. And I'm just gonna delete my event listener here. Scroll and is active. By the way, it's gonna be semicolon. Let's check, but of course we don't have any content here yet. Let's open up our app.js and write here some random texts. I'm gonna duplicate this a couple times. And when I scroll, as you can see, it works as we expected. But we don't have any animation. Let's add here. I will say transition 0.5 seconds, and it's gonna include all effects and timing function. So it's gonna be a little bit slower. Let's check. Okay, perfect. As you can see, it's much better right now. But there's a problem here. When I scroll, as you can see, this is sticky. Let's give this effect. I will come here and say position sticky. In this case, I should give my position here, and it's gonna be top 0. It's gonna stay on top 0 all the time. Like that. Perfect. So it works. I can delete my h1 tags here. And there is one more thing. If we have a user, let me change here. I'm gonna add here a current user, like that. As you can see, when I click here, we are gonna see this menu. So I'm gonna need one more condition here, and it's gonna be a user. Of course, in the next tutorial, we are gonna fetch our user from our database, but for now, let's say current user. Of course, const. I'm gonna give some ID here, maybe username. And one more thing we are gonna need, and it's gonna be is seller. That's because if we are not a seller, we will not able to see our gigs and add new gig section. We are gonna see our orders, messages, and this logout button. That's all. By the way, let's add this user. I will come here. By the way, I don't want to see those red warnings. I'm going to open up my Eslint configuration and add here my rules. In this case, they are not going to be red, they are going to be yellow. It means, okay, it's not vital, but there is still error here. It's not an error, it's just a warning. Okay. So after those buttons, let's add here some conditions. Firstly, this one. I will say if current user is seller, don't show this link. That's because we are already seller, we don't have to see this. And this one, if we have a current user, we don't have to see this button. And I will say, if there is a current user, add here a div, and it's going to be a user div. And inside we are going to have our username. Let's say current user dot username. And also you can add here your profile picture. And under this, I can add my menu. Let's say maybe options. We already have menu. So I'm going to add my items here. But as I said, if we are a seller, we will be able to see this and this link. Otherwise, we are going to see only those three. So I need one more condition here. I will say if current user is a seller, show here gigs, add new gig, and here add two more, and it's gonna be orders, messages, and logout. Okay, let's give a style. Inside links, we have a user div, and it's going to be a display flags. I will say align item center, and I'm going to give a gap between this image and username. Of course, we don't have any image yet. Let's copy and paste here. And I'm going to give some width and height for this image. I'm going to make this a circle, 50%, and object width is going to be cover. Like this. As you can see, they are centered right now, and we will be able to click on this user. So I will say cursor pointer. And what about our options? I will write here options. Remember, it's our menu. So what I'm going to do is using here a position absolute. That's because we are going to show our box somewhere here. It's going to be underneath this user div, like that. Let's do that. Position absolute. I will say top 50, right 0, and I will give some padding inside. Let's change its background color. It's going to be white. I will give some border, 10 pixels. I can give some border and we can see better. 1 pixel, solid, and light gray. Okay, as you can see, it starts from here, not here. That's because we didn't say position relative for the parent div, like that. By the way, I said border, it's going to be border radius. And for the items inside, I'm going to say display flags, flag extraction column, and I will give some gap, and it's going to be 10 pixels. Of course, we cannot see them, that because they are white right now. I will say color and gray. Okay. I can give some width here. It's too small. Let's say 200, and font width will be a little bit smaller, like that. Okay, awesome. And let's write our functionality. When I click here, we are going to see our menu. To do that, we are going to need one more useState. And I will say open and set open. It's going to be false. And when I click on this user button, I'm going to open it. So I will say set open. And I will say if it's true, it's going to be false. If it's false, it's going to be true. So it's the opposite of open variable. And I can write my condition for this box also. I will cover this option like that. And I will say if it's open. Like that. Perfect. So let's take care of React Router DOM. I'm gonna open up its homepage as right now. As you can see, we are gonna need React Router DOM provider here. And inside this provider, we are gonna pass our router. And it's gonna include all our pages. But there is something important here. For the home page, for the category page or single page or gigs, for example, we have our navbar and footer all the time. So we don't have to write them in every page. We are gonna write only once using React Router DOM, and we are gonna wrap our pages. To do that, we are gonna be using React Router DOM outlet. I'm gonna explain this soon, but before, let's import them. Let me close them and open up my app.js. I will import. I'm gonna create my router. Of course, I'm gonna change it. And finally, I'm gonna wrap my entire application using React Router DOM. Okay. As you can see, it says hello world. But if I write here homepage, as you can see, it shows our homepage. So what about React Router DOM outlet? Let's write here outlet. Basically, I'm gonna create here a layout. Let's say const layout. And it's gonna return us a simple layout, which includes our navbar and also our footer. Of course, we don't have yet, but we are gonna create. And between them, I'm gonna use React Router DOM outlet. As you can understand, instead of this outlet, we can give any page, like homepage, profile page, whatever you like. Of course, I should wrap them React fragments, or you can create here any div, doesn't matter. Let's open up our components and create one more component here, and it's gonna be footer. Okay, let's create our CSS file. Okay, right now I can use it. Let's import. Like that. Right now I can use my layout here. The element will be my layout. And for each page, I'm gonna return different component. So I'm gonna create here an array. Path is gonna be our home page, and its element will be the home page element. And right now, as you can see, we have navbar, home page, and footer. I can do the same thing for other pages. For gigs, for a single gig, of course, we are gonna have its ID, orders, my gigs. What else we have? Let's check. Add new gig, messages, and single message. It's going to have ID, and that's all, I think. Let's import our pages here. like that. And let's see. A single gig, as you can see, it's here. Our categories, like that. Messages. Perfect, it works. Right now we can use our links. When I click here, we are gonna go to homepage. Let's open up our Navbar. And right now I can open my comment here, like that, and I can import. I will click. As you can see, we are in the home page. But as you realize, there is a default styling here. To prevent this, I can open up my menu here and create a common style. Let's say app.scss. And for the entire application, I'm gonna give a link class name, and I'm gonna delete this text decoration and its color. So if I give class name here and link, it's not gonna work. That because we didn't import our app CSS. Let's come here. Actually, it's here. I can import my CSS file, app.scss. And right now, as you can see, we don't have any decoration or color. We can use this link everywhere. For example, here. Let's open up Navbar. Instead of those spans, I can use link. It's gonna be gigs. Actually, it's gonna be my gigs. Add orders, messages. And also I can give my class name. And it's gonna be link. Like that. I will click. As you can see, it works. Okay, awesome. Before starting other components, I want to show you one more thing here. If I visit any category here, as you can see, even if I'm not scrolling, it's still white and we can see this menu. So we are gonna need one more condition here. If we are not in the home page, it's gonna be active all the time. To do that, we can use our location here. We can do this easily. I will come here and say const use location hook. As you can see, React router DOM. And we can choose our path name using use location. So let's come here and I'm gonna write one more condition. Or if path name doesn't equal home page. If it's not home page, it's gonna be active. I can do the same thing for our menu. Here, I will say if it's active or path name is not home page. By the way, I can update my links right now, like that. As you can see, we are using React router DOM link and our titles, nothing else. Okay, as you can see, we are in the home page and it's green. But if I click here, it's white. Perfect. It works. So we have finished our Navbar. It was quite long. Let's make this a little bit faster. Otherwise, this video will be really long. I don't want to do that. Let's create this featured component. I'm going to close everything and open up my menu. And I'm going to create my other component, and it's going to be featured. Let's create quickly. Of course, we are going to have a container. I'm writing in advance, and right here, import featured as CSS. Class name is going to be featured, and inside we are going to create our container. By the way, for the consistency, I can make this capital letter like that. And let's open up our home page and right here, featured. Let's write anything here. Okay, it's here. So let's see what we are going to create. Firstly, we are going to have our container. It's going to be same size, 1400. And inside this container, we are going to have two sections, both texts and this image here. Let's write here, left and right. And inside left, we are going to have a title. I will copy this and search. Inside this div, we are going to have three items, this icon, this input, and this button. But as you can see, this icon and this input are really close each other, but this button is on the other side. It means we are going to wrap those items with a div. Let's do that. Search input. And we are going to have our search icon and input. Let's write here a placeholder. I will copy paste. It's going to be try building mobile app. And after this input, we are going to have our search button. And what else? We are going to have this section. After this search, I will say popular. And we are going to have our buttons here. Web design, WordPress, logo design, and AI services. And for the right side, this image, by the way, let's import our images. Here, I'm going to create a new folder, and it's going to be our public folder. And inside this public folder, I can create images. I will just drag and drop my images here. By the way, in case of any copyright problems, I can change those images. That because they belong to Fiverr.com. Maybe they don't want us to use their special images. So I'm going to change them in the GitHub repository. But don't worry, I'm going to find a nice one. Okay. Let's write here. Images man.png. And for this button, search.png. Oops. Okay. Let's open up our CSS file here and give some style. Firstly, I want to give here a height. Let's say 600. It's going to be display flags, justify content center. That because we are going to center our container. And remember its size. And we are going to separate our left and right side. So I will say display flags. And by the way, we can give our background color here like that. And text color will be white. Like this. Let's take care of our left side. Firstly, it's going to be display flags, but vertical. I'm going to create left and right sides. Display flags, flags direction column. And I'm going to give gap between my items, like that. For this h1 tag, let's say bigger, like that. And after search div, remember it includes our search input. Here it includes our image and input and a button. And after this search div, we have our other div here. And inside we have a span and some buttons. Okay. Let's make this search display flags. So they are going to be horizontal. I will say align item center. I'm going to separate them using justify content. And I want to give a background color. It's going to be white. And border radius will be 5 pixels. So what about this other div, search input div? Again, it's going to be display flags, align item center, and gap between this icon and this input. Perfect. And I can change this image size. Let's say 20. I can give some margin maybe. Or if you want to, you can give padding for this search. Doesn't matter. And after this image, I will say input. I'm going to delete its border and its outline. Okay, awesome. What about this button? I will give some width and height. Let's say 50. I'm going to delete its border. Let's give background color. It's going to be this green color and font color will be white and cursor pointer. Okay, awesome. So let's give style for those items. I'm going to give space between them. Let's say 10 pixels. And for those buttons, as you can see, we are going to have some border here and we are going to delete this background color. Let's say color white, background color transparent. Let's give our border 1 pixel, solid, and it's going to be white. I can give some padding from top and bottom, left and right. And border radius will be 20 pixels. And font size a little bit smaller, 14 pixels, like that. Of course, we can click on them, cursor pointer. We have a proper image here, but if we have bigger or smaller images, I'm just gonna give here 100%. And for image, height will be 100%. And object width will be contain. Okay. By the way, we can change this freelance word. Where is our h1 tag? Here. I'm just gonna write here an I tag like that. And maybe I can decrease this font weight. Where is our h1 tag? Here. Inside we have I and its font weight will be 300. Like this. So let's take care of this section. I'm gonna come here, close everything, and create a new component. I'm not sure should I create a component for this small basic component, but anyway, we can create, or just you can use your homepage and create a div there. Doesn't matter. Let's write it into our homepage here. Like that. Okay, let's see what we have. As you can see, we have a text here and our images. I will just say span and some images here. I just want to copy and paste like that. Nothing else. Let's come here. I'm going to change its background color. That's because, as you can see, it's this gray color. It will be 100. I will say display flags and justify content center. That's because, remember, we have a container here. I will say width 760. It's going to be a little bit smaller. And I'm going to center everything. I'm going to give gap between my items. And this text color will be, let's say, light gray. And font weight, by the way, why it's not gray? Let's check. Okay, something is wrong here. Oh, I forgot creating here a container. Okay, let's take this back like that. And I'm gonna make those images smaller. Let's say 50 pixels. And object width will be contain. Okay, but it's not centered. Let's say justify content center. Okay, awesome. So let's create this slider. Of course, we can create our own slider as we did before, but this time we can use a library. It's gonna be much easier. Don't worry, it's really easy to use. Firstly, I want to create a new component. Let's say slide. Okay, let's see how we are gonna install. Okay, this is our library. We are gonna be using this code like that, and let's see how we are gonna use it. Firstly, we are gonna import this slider, and inside this component, we are just gonna pass our cards, our images, any component here, doesn't matter. In our case, in our application, as you can see, we are going to pass those cards. To do that, we are going to need another component. Let's create those cards. Actually, I'm just going to copy this and paste. Let's change the name. I'll say gig card. Actually, let's say category card. That's because our gig cards will be different. I'm going to change its name. Like that. So what I want to do is to create a dummy data which includes those images, this title and this title. So using those data, we can map through our cards and we can show inside our slide component. Let's close everything here. And inside source folder, I'm gonna say data.js. And here I'm gonna add my fake data. Of course, in the next tutorial, we are going to fetch our data from DB, but for now, we can use them. As you can see, they have title, description, and image. Title, description, and image. We can use this. So basically, we are going to have an item here, and I'm going to add here a link, by the way. That's because when we click them, we are going to open up our category. Let's say any ID here, doesn't matter. We are going to change it later. And here we are not going to need any container. We are going to have only those texts and this image. I will delete this. And let's say image is going to be item.image span, and it's going to be our description and title. Item.description, item.title. Okay, that's all. Actually, it's not a single gig, it's a category, so it's going to be gigs. And we can give here any query. Of course, we are going to handle them later, but for now, it can stay like that. So when we click on those cards, we are going to open up our category page and we will be able to see our gigs. And when we click them, it's going to be this single page. Okay, let's take care of its CSS here. We don't have any container. I'm going to give some width and height. Font color will be white, and I'm going to give some border radius, just 5, and cursor pointer. By the way, I will give position relative, that because we are going to cover this component with our image, and those texts will be position absolute. Let's do that. Width 100%, height 100%. It's going to cover all our components. Let's say cover. And after that, for description, font weight 300 and position will be absolute. And let's say top 15, left 15. It's going to start from here. And for this title, so let's say title, font weight will be bigger, font size will be bigger, and again, position absolute, left 15, but this time top will be, let's say 40. Okay, we are gonna see them right now, but we have to import our slide first. Let's see. I'm gonna import this slider. And let's see first. I'm just gonna copy here and paste. I'm gonna open up my home page. And add my slide component. And as you can see, this is our component. When I click here, it turns to 2, 3, 4, like that. And also we can change them using those dots. But in our example, we don't have any dots, so we can delete them. Let's open up slider and delete this. And basically we are gonna pass here our cart component. Let's try. Category cart. Of course, we didn't pass any item here. I will say carts.map, and for each cart, I'm gonna return category cart, and as an item, I'm gonna pass my cart. Let's import this data. By the way, we need to add here a unique key, and it's going to be cart.id. And right now, as you can see, our item is here, and I can scroll them using those buttons. But we can see only one image here. We can change it. Let's come here in the documentation. As you can see, we have slides to show. We can show 5 slides. Let's say 5. As you can see, 5 items. But when I click here, it adds only one image here. As you can see, we can change how many slides to scroll. By default, it's 1. We can change it. And it's gonna be 5 also. And right now, it skips 5 items. And the best thing is, it's an infinite slider. So even if we are in the last slide, it shows the first slide right after that. And it's awesome. So right now, what can I do? I can take them as a prop here. Like that. And I can directly set here my children. Basically, we are gonna take those props and these children from homepage. I'm doing this because we are gonna need one more slider here. Let's see. As you can see, this is a different one. In this case, we are gonna send another card here. So let's delete them. Actually, I will copy this. I will come here and import. And right now, I can map through my cards here as a children. Category card. And key will be card.id. And item will be the card itself. It's exactly the same thing. As you can see, by the way, I didn't pass my props. It's gonna be 5. It's gonna be 5, and that's all. Okay, let's give some style here. As always, display flags, justify content center, and I want to give some padding from top and bottom. From here and here. And in container, it will be 1400 and perfect. If you want to, you can change those icons. To do that, we can use their class names. They have some default class names inside. So if I say carousel, previous and next, let's say width 50, height 50, background color will be light gray. Let's make this circle. As you can see, by the way, it can be a little bit lighter maybe. Okay, and I'm gonna give some position using position absolute. Let's say position absolute. I'm gonna center this vertically. To do that, I'm gonna use top 0, bottom 0, and margin auto. Okay. It's much better right now. You can change them as you wish using those class names. By the way, if you wanna see more features, you can just visit this page. It's an awesome library. And that's all. Let's create this component. To do that, I'm not gonna create a new component. I'm just gonna create inside my homepage. Let's close everything and open up homepage. And after this slide, let's say features. We are gonna have a container and we will have 2 items, as you can see, left and right part. And inside this left part, we are gonna have h1 tag, this title, but as you can see, there's an icon here. So we have to create another div. And finally, this p tag. And for the right side, we are gonna have only this video. Let's say item, another item is going to include only our video. Video.mp4 and I want to see its controls. In this case, we will be able to see play button, this line or time. And inside this item, we are going to have h1 tag. Let's copy and paste this. And I'm going to create a div here. It's going to include our checkbox and title. Like that. And after this div, we are going to have a p tag. And inside this tag, I'm going to paste this text. Okay, as you can see, it's really huge. Let's create our other items here, and after we are going to give our styles. I'm going to open up my home page, home CSS, and inside home, features, we have item inside, h1 tag, p tag, and title. Let's see. As you can see, we have this background color inside features. I will say background color. It's going to be display flags, justify content center, and I'm going to give padding from top and bottom like that. And by the way, let's take care of this video first because it's really big. So I will say 720. By the way, there's a problem here. As you can see, instead of Navbar, we keep seeing our cards. To prevent this, I'm going to open up my Navbar CSS and I will say C index and let's say 999. Okay. So let's separate them. By the way, do we have a container or not? Okay, we have. I forgot that. Let's add it here after features. So it's going to be display flags, of course, our width, and align item center, and gap between my items will be 15 pixels. Okay, in our example, as you can see, this part is a little bit bigger. To do that, I can use flags. We have item here, and the first item will be, I will say, first child. Flags 2 is going to be 2 units, and the last child flags will be 3. As you can see, it's bigger right now. If I give any background, you will see better. Let's say black. As you can see, it ends here. It's bigger. Of course, you can give different names like left and right, but I just wanted to show you how you can use first and last child. So let's make this item display flags, and flags direction will be column and gap will be 15 pixels. Like that, 15 pixels space. By the way, they are to close each other. Let's come here and change this, maybe 200. Okay, much better. Right now I can take care of this image, this h1 and my title. This h1 is here. Font weight will be 500. And I'm going to give some margin. Margin bottom, 10 pixels. And let's say a little bit bigger font size. Font weight will be 300. I'm going to change its color. It's going to be gray. Like that. But their letters are to close each other. Let's check here. As you can see, its readability is higher. I'm going to change a little bit. So let's say line height is going to be 28 pixels. And I'm going to give letter spacing and it's going to be 1 pixel. Like that. It's much better. What about this title? It's going to be display flags, align item center. I'm going to give gap between them. It's going to be thicker and bigger. And color will be, let's say, gray. I can decrease this image size. It's inside title, don't forget. It's going to be 24, height 24. Okay, perfect. Let's see. Okay. What else? By the way, we are going to use one more features. Of course, we are going to add this component, but before, let's add this one. I'm just going to come here and copy this component and paste one more time. As I said, if you want to, you can create a different component, but we are not going to use it anywhere else. It's going to be only in home page. So I prefer using just home.jsx. If you want to, you can change. Let's see what we have here. We have this image. Let's copy its address, and instead of video, we are going to have an image. And for this left side, we will have this h1 tag and another one. Let's actually delete those. It's going to be easier to see. H1 tag and one more, and it's going to be this text. After that, we are going to have a p tag. I'm going to copy this. And again, I'm going to create a title div. And inside we are going to have image, which is going to be our check icon and a text here. Like that. So I can copy and paste other divs here. And finally, we are going to have this button. Okay, let's see. As you can see, it's here, but it's a little bit different. But don't worry, we are going to change it. In our example, as you realize, its background color is different. To do that, I can add here one more class name, and it's going to be dark. Let's come here. Inside features, I'm going to say if it's dark mode, change its background color, and also color will be white. Actually, let me see. Okay, as you can see, they are gray. That's because we have given different colors for each item. So I have to do this one by one. I'll say H1, color will be white. P tag is going to be white, and I'm going to give some margin bottom because there is a space here. And for title, color will be white, font weight will be 300, and font size will be 14. And for image, I'll say 100%. If we do that, as you can see, our items are still gray. That's because it's overwriting our dark component here. To prevent this, I can come and say important. In this case, it's not gonna overwrite anymore. Like that. Let's check. Okay. We can change this button. Background color. Text color will be white. I will give some padding. Font size will be 16 pixels. We can click on it. Margin bottom will be 20 pixels, like that. By the way, there is a border here. I can delete it. Border, no. Let's check. As you can see, its width is a little bit smaller. And there's a space here. I set margin bottom is going to be top, of course, like that. And its size will be maximum content. So I will say width maximum content. In this case, it's going to be smaller, like that. Okay, so we have here one more slider. Let's create. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. It's going to be easier. I will copy this and paste right after this features component. And we are going to have our projects. Let's see. In this case, we are going to be using different dummy data. Let's open up our data.js, and I'm going to paste here my data. As you can see, we have some projects, which includes image, profile picture, category, and the owner name, this username. Let's use it. It's going to be projects. We are going to have different cart. Let's create. I will copy this and paste, and it's going to be project cart. Let's change those names. I will delete them, and we are not going to give any URL here. It can stay like that. And let's see what we are going to have. As you can see, there's an image, and we will create one more div here, which includes the user profile picture, its name, and this project name. So let's say image. It's going to be item.image. Let's create a div. I will say info. It's going to include our user image, which is item.profile picture. And I'm going to create one more div, texts, and it's going to include the project name. Let's check what was that. Okay, category. Item.category. And a span, which shows our username. Let's open here. I'm going to delete everything and start from scratch. Firstly, I'm going to give some width and height. I'm going to give a border radius. It's going to be 5 pixels. And cursor pointer. And inside we are going to have our image with 100%, and it's going to be 70%, and the other 30% will be our user image and its information. Let's say object fit, and inside info, remember, user image and texts, and it includes our category and username. Let's give some style. I will say display flags, align item center, gap between them, and I'm going to give some padding. Of course, we cannot see right now. Let's import our project cart. Okay, they are here. Those images are too big. Let's say 40. And border radius, as we always do, and object fit. Okay, what about those texts? Font size will be 14, and 500. Okay, as you can see, we have a link style here. To prevent this, remember what we are doing. Where is our project card? Here. I will say class name, and it's going to be link. By the way, they are too small, I think. I'm going to give here a box shadow to see better. Okay, I'm going to give some margin here. And we can try. Oh, okay, it's not working. That's because we are trying to show 5 items. Let's open up our home.jsx and it's going to be 4 items. And right now it works as we expected. Okay, by the way, those points are too sharp. To prevent this, I'm going to say overflow hidden. That's because we have a border radius here. This time it's going to be rounded. And one more thing for the home page, and it's going to be our footer. Let's close everything and open up footer quickly. Let's see what we should create. As you can see, we have 2 parts. This top part, which includes our links, and this bottom part, I will say container first, inside, top and bottom, and inside bottom we have left and right. And for the top part, basically for each column I can create different items which include this title and those links. So I will say item h2, let's say categories, and after that those links. I will just copy and paste. And we are gonna have 4 items. It's 4 or 5. Okay, 5 items. Okay. And for the bottom, we are going to have our logo and a span, this copyright text. And for the right side, we are going to have some images here and 2 links and 1 more image. Actually, let's create a social div for those icons, another div for this icon and text, exactly the same thing, and image. So I will say social is going to have our icons, social media icons. After this, I will say link actually let's create a span and it's going to be language.png and 1 more link is going to be coin.png, let's say USD, and after this link 1 more image and it's going to be accessibility.png. Okay, they are here. Let's give our style. It's going to be easy. I will say footer, inside our container, top, bottom, and inside left and right. Let's quickly center our items. Display flags, justify content center. We are going to give a color, text color, and it's going to be this gray color. And I'm going to give a margin from top and bottom. Like this, 50 pixels, 50 pixels. What about those images? Let's give directly 24. Like that. And for this container, let's give our size And for the top section, display flags, justify content, space between. Like that. But it's overflowing, that because we see all our links in the same line. Let's prevent this. For each item, display flags, flags direction column, and gap between them. Like that. For this category, remember it's an H2 tag. Font size 16. And color will be a little bit darker, like that. And for the span, which are our links, font weight will be 300. Okay, awesome. By the way, we can add here this line. Where is our bottom here? Before this, I'm gonna add HR. Let's write it here. Firstly, I want to give a space. As you can see, they are really close. Let's say 50. I will say height 0, and I'm gonna give a border. And light gray. This is a little bit lighter. I'm gonna choose different color. Of course, you can create a variable for the consistency, but for not wasting time, I'm just choosing immediately. I'm trying to do this as quick as possible. Okay, what about this bottom? Let's make them horizontal. Align item center, justify content, space between. For the left side, it's gonna be exactly the same. Align item center. I'm gonna give gap between them, like that. And for this span, I'm gonna change its font size. It's gonna be smaller. Perfect. And for the right side, again, display flags, align item center, gap between them, and I should center them also. What was the name? Okay, link. And by the way, we have social also. Display flags, align item center, and gap. Oops. And after that, finally, our link, display flags, align item center, and gap. Okay, perfect. We have finished our home page. Right now, we can take care of our categories. Let's open up any category here. So firstly, we need those gig cards. Let's create new component. Okay, inside we are going to have this image, this gig information, and the gig details. So we are going to have 3 different items. So I will say image. We are going to take this as a prop, this item, and its image. Let's write it here. By the way, I can wrap this with link. And when we click them, we will go to any gig. Like that. And we are going to have gig information and details. And in this information, we have this user, which includes this user image and its name. After, we are going to have description and this start div. going to be image, item dot profile picture, and I'm going to have a span item dot username. After this user, I can create my description. And a star div. And it's going to be image folder star.png. And finally, another span, and it's going to say item.star. Let's create our fake data. I will come here, I will paste, and as you can see, kick image, profile picture, description, its price, star number, and the username. So after this info, I can write my details, and it's going to include the heart image, this image, and this component, starting at and price. Item.price. Okay, I can open up my CSS. I'm going to give some width and height. I will give some border. It's going to be 1 pixel, solid, and light gray. And I'm going to give some margin to bottom. That's because after each card we are going to need this space. Let's give height for this image. Width will be 100%, but the height will be 50%. It's going to end in the middle of the card. Height 50%, and object width cover. Info section and details section. I'm going to give some padding here, 10 to 20. It's going to be display flags, flags direction column, and I'm going to give gap. Those gaps. And for this user, it's going to be horizontal, and again, I'm going to give space. Inside info, we have a user div, display flags, align item center, and gap. And inside this user, we have our profile picture. It's going to be a circle, border radius, and our description. It's going to be a little bit softer. You don't have to change here, but anyway. And after our description, we have this star div. Let's give gap. I'm gonna decrease this image size, width 14, height 14, and for span, font size will be 14, font weight will be bold, and its color will be exactly the same color that this image uses, like that. And for detail, actually before detail, I'm gonna add this HR tag. Let's come here. Height will be 0. I'm gonna add border 0.5 pixels, solid, and light gray. And for details, I'm gonna give some padding from left and right also. It's gonna be display flags, align item center, and I'm gonna separate my items. Remember, they are separated. And for this image, I can decrease number, I mean its size. And we can click on it. And after this image, we are going to have a price div. Did I create that div or? No, I didn't. like that. So we have a span and h2. I'm gonna change its color. It's gonna be softer, and font size will be really small. And what about this price? It's gonna be darker, and font size will be bigger. And let's see here. I'm gonna open up my gigs page. Let's close everything here and open up. Where is our categories? Here. Before showing our cards, I want to create first those items. Let's create this. We are gonna have a container first, and it's gonna be a span, and let's say breadcrumbs. And h1 tag, and a p tag, like that. And finally, we are going to have a menu. Oops, it's going to be dot. And this includes two sections. First one is budget section, and second one is sorting section. So I will say left and right. So I will say span, budget, and we are going to have two inputs. Let's check. Two inputs, and after one button. Let's say placeholder, and it's going to be minimum price. And one more is going to be maximum price. And finally, a button, and I will say apply. Now for the right side, we are going to have this text and this icon. And when I click on this icon, we are going to see a menu here. Exactly the same thing as we did here. Let's create. Let's say span, sort by. Let's give a class name. Sort by. I'm giving that because we are going to have one more span here, and it's going to be sort type. And it's best selling. It's going to be dynamic, that because when we choose another option here, it's going to be changing like that. And let's create this image and our menu. Down.png. And right after that, I'm going to create my menu. Let's say right menu. And two options. Newest or best selling. Okay, let's give a style, and after that we are going to take care of this menu. Display flags, justify content. I'm going to give my width. I'm going to give my padding. And it's going to be flags direction column and gap between each item. Okay, there is no space here. Oh, I will say pixels. Okay, right now let's take care of those items, breadcrumbs. Font weight a little bit thinner, and font size a little bit smaller. Like that. And for this description, it's a p tag, remember. Color will be soft gray, like that. And font weight. Okay, let's give style for this menu. It's going to be display flags, align item center, and I'm going to separate them. Justify content, space between. And inside this menu, remember, we have left and right side. Let's check here, as you can see. And left side will be display flags, align item center. I'm gonna give gap. And color will be 555. Okay. What about those inputs? I'm gonna give some padding and border, 1 pixel, solid, and let's say light gray. I just wanna delete this outline. This blue outline is gonna be none. Outline none. And let's change those placeholder texts. They are too dark. I will say placeholder, and color will be gray. Maybe light gray. Okay, gray is better. It can stay like that. And for this button, as we always do, background color. We have already done this a couple times, so I'm not gonna explain what I'm doing. Cursor will be pointer, and let's give some padding. Maybe radius 5 pixels. Okay, awesome. And what about here? Display flags, align item center, and gap between items. And for this sort by, color will be 555 and font weight will be thinner. And for sort type, font weight will be thicker. And there's a DOM image here. It's gonna be 15 pixels, and cursor will be pointer. That's because we are gonna click on it and see these options. Let's give a position absolute for this right menu, this one. But remember, if you are using position absolute, the parent should be position relative. Firstly, I'm gonna give a padding. Background color is gonna be white. Border radius 5 pixels, and we can give a border 0.5 pixels and light gray. Let's create position absolute and give our positions. Right, 0, and it's going to be display flags and flags direction column. That's because our items will be vertical, and I can give some gap. And color will be 555. Like that. By the way, I said light gray, but sorry. Okay, and for those items we can click, so I'm gonna choose those spans inside this menu and cursor pointer. Okay, right now I'm gonna create exactly the same functionality. I will come here and say const open set open, useState hook, and the initial state will be false. Let's close here. And when I click on this button, this down button, I'm gonna open or close my menu. So I will say set open. It's gonna be opposite of open. And I can write here my condition if it's open. Like that. So how I'm gonna change here? To do that, I need one more useState, and it's gonna store this value. Let's create one more useState. And I will say sort, set sort, and this value will be at the beginning sales. I'm writing sales here, not best selling. That's because in the next tutorial we are gonna make an API request and our query will be this sales number. For example, we are gonna make requests like API X and we are gonna give here any query like sort and sales or sort and created at date if we want to see the newest items. This is why we are storing like this. And let's create here a function. I will say const resort. We are going to take a type from user and we are going to set our state here. And also we are going to close our menu when we click one of them. And let's use this. If I click here, I'm going to give type and it's going to be created at. Let's copy this and paste here. And it's going to be sales. And we should change here. I'm going to come here and say if sort equals sales, it's going to write here best selling. If it's not, it's going to write here newest. Let's see. I'm going to click, as you can see, perfect. But in this case, we shouldn't see this button. We have already chosen. So we are going to need one more condition. And I will say if sort equals sales, it's going to be this span. If it's not, it's going to be this span. I will refresh. As you can see, only newest. I'm going to click. And right now, only best selling. Let's check here. Okay, awesome. And we are going to show our cards right now. It's really easy. Where is our menu? I'm going to come here and say cards. It's going to contain all our cards. So let's say geeks.map. And for each item, we are going to return our geek card. Of course, we should add here its key, .id, and item will be geek. Let's import this. Data. And also we are going to need our component. Let me paste it. And let's see. Okay, they are here. As you can see, we forget writing link class name. Let's open up geek card. It's going to be link. And as you realize, it's vertical. Let's make this horizontal. After this menu, I will say cards. It's going to be display flex, but this time it's going to overflow. To prevent this, I'm going to write here flex wrap, and it's going to be wrap. It's much better, but I can separate them. Justify content, space between, and awesome. Maybe I can make this border softer. Where is our geek cards? Okay, this one is going to be lighter, like that. So I can do the same thing for this HR tag here. Okay. Right now we can click on them and open up our single gig page. Let's create. Let's check here first. As you can see, we are going to have two sections, first part and second part. The first part will include those items, and the second part will be this sticky card. As you can see, it stays in this position. Let's create. I will close everything and open up gig page. Let's create container, left and right side. Let's create these breadcrumbs. And h1 tag. And after we are going to create this user section. And it will include our profile picture, username, let's say John Doe, and stars. How many stars this user has. As you can see, there are 5 stars and this span. But of course, it can be 4, 3, depends on our user. So I can create 5 star inside for now. Image folder star.png. 5 of them. And finally, a span is going to be 5. Where are our stars? I should do it like that, I think. Okay. And after that, we are going to have this slider. After this user, I'm going to call my slider from my library. And inside, we are going to have, let's say, 3 images. Actually, I will just copy and paste them. And slide to show will be just 1. It's gonna show only 1 image each time. And when we scroll this, arrow scroll, and it's gonna show only 1 more image. Let's see. Okay. I'm clicking second, third. 1, 2, 3. Okay, perfect. And after that, we are gonna have this h1 tag. Actually, let's say h2, that because we have h1 here. And after this p tag. Let me copy this. After this slider, h2 and p tag. And what else? There's a seller section. We are going to have h2 tag again. And after that, this user section. User image and other details. I will say seller section, h2 tag. What was that? About the seller. And user section. It's going to include user image. Let me paste here. By the way, did we use user image here? Okay, I forgot. I will add. And after this image, we will create 1 more div. And it's going to include this username, those stars, and this contact me button. Let's say user info, John Doe. Again, I'm going to use those stars like that. And a button. And what else? We are going to have this box, and in this box we will have 2 sections, those items and this p tag, and between them we are going to create this hr tag. So let's say box, items, and a p tag. Let's copy and paste this. Okay, so inside these items we are going to have each individual item, and it's going to include 1 title and 1, let's say, description. It's going to be from USA, and I'm going to copy and paste others like that. And after those items, we have this description. But before, as I said, we are going to need an HR tag. And after that, finally, we are going to have our reviews. So after this seller section, I'm going to create one more section. Where is seller? Okay, it ends here. So I'm going to say reviews. H2 tag. And we are going to have 3 items here. And each item includes, again, user section, stars, description, and those items. Let's say helpful section. Let's do that. I will say item and user image, and I'm going to create one more div here, that because it's going to be display flags, and first part will be this image, second part will be this name and this country. Let's say John Doe, and one more div, and it's going to include the flag, the country flag, and the country itself, United States. I'm gonna copy and paste this user image and USA flag like that. And after that, we are gonna need those stars. It's exactly the same component. After this user, I'm gonna create my stars here. It's gonna include 5 stars and 5. And a p tag like that. And finally, the helpful section. This text, icon, text, icon, text. It's gonna be yes or no, and between them we are going to add our icons. Image, like.png, and one more, and it's going to be dislike.png. And that's all, I think. And between each item we are going to need this HR. Let's choose this item. HR tag, one more item, HR, and the last item. Okay. Let's care about them, and after we can create this box. Firstly, what I want to do is to make our container display flags, and this left side will be twice bigger than this right side. Let's open up geek.scss, display flags, justify content center, and for the container with 1400, I'm gonna give my padding from top and bottom. And as I said, display flags and maybe gap between them. And finally, I can create left and right side. And it's gonna be flags 1. Sorry, it's gonna be flags 2 because it's the bigger part. And flags 1. Okay, let's make this vertical. Oops. I need a semicolon here. Flags direction column and gap 20. Okay, let's start with these breadcrumbs. Let's open up here. Okay, inside left, I'm gonna say 300, font size 13 pixels, and color will be the mid gray color. And this tag, H1 tag, actually we don't need to change it. It looks okay. Let's see. Okay, it's exactly the same. And this part, this user part, they are gonna be horizontal, and I'm gonna decrease this image and this image size and give some color. So I will say user, display flags, align item center, gap between each item. And for this image, actually I can say class name. I don't want to affect any other images here. So let's say pp profile picture 32, height 32, and border radius. After this image, I'm gonna say span, our username, font size 14, font weight 500. Like that. What about those stars? After the span, I'm gonna say stars, align item center, gap between them. For each image, I'm gonna say 14 pixels. And for this number, I will say span, font size 14, font weight bold, and I'm gonna change its color. It's gonna be orange. Let me copy this color. Like that. And what about this section? In our example, as you can see, our images are not covering this slider, so object width will be contained. Let's come here and say class name. It's gonna be slider. Okay. After this user, I'm gonna say slider, and image inside, I'm gonna say maximum height 500 pixels, and object width is gonna be contained. In this case, it's gonna look better. Like that. Let's see. Okay, awesome. And for those h2 tags, let's see, after slider here, font weight will be 400. And for the description, let's say 300. Color will be mid-gray. Okay, but to make this more readable, I'm gonna give line height, and it's gonna be 25 pixels. Okay, and for this seller section, I'm gonna give first a space here. I will say seller, margin top 50 pixels. It's gonna be display flags, flags direction column, and gap between each item will be 20 pixels. Let's take care of this user section. Gap between them and this image 100, and it's gonna be circle. And after that, I will say info. Remember, this is our info section. Let's see. Again, I can say display flags, flags direction column, and gap between them. Finally, those stars. Actually, I'm gonna do exactly the same thing. I can copy here. Like that. And this button, I'm gonna give a background color. I'm gonna delete that gray color. It's gonna be white. Border radius 5 pixels. Let's give a border 1 pixel, solid, and gray. And padding will be 10 pixels. Like that. Awesome. Of course, cursor pointer. Okay. And this box. I'm gonna give a border and a padding inside. Where is our seller section? Here. Before this, I'm gonna say box. Let's see here. Okay, it's here. Let's say border 1 pixel, solid and light gray. I'll say border radius 5 pixels, padding 20 pixels, and I'm gonna give margin top, and it's gonna be 20 also, like that. And for this item section, I'm gonna say display flex, and flex wrap will be wrap. Remember why we are doing this? Space between. Oops. Of course, they look like that. That's because we didn't give any width for each item. Let's do that. Let's say 300. I'm gonna say column flex, like that, and gap between each item, and margin bottom will be 20. After each item, there will be 20 pixels space. And remember, it was title and this was description. Let's check title and description. I'm gonna change this title and a little bit thinner. Okay, let's check here. Perfect. Let's create this HR and change this P tag. After items, I'm gonna say HR tag, height 0. I'm gonna give border light gray, and margin bottom will be 20 pixels. I'm doing this because we already have 20 pixels space here. Remember, for each item there was margin bottom, so we are giving only here. We don't have to change here. It already looks great. And we have only those reviews here, and after that we are gonna create this box. Okay, seller section, and here, and reviews section. Firstly, I'm gonna give a space here. Let's come back. Okay, let's write this item. Display flags, flag extraction. And I'm gonna give some margin. Let's decrease this image size and we can see better. Inside item, I'm gonna say user. And profile picture, it's gonna be 50 pixels. And there's a country div here. Align item center, space, and color will be gray. And inside this country section, we have one more image. And it's gonna be 20. By the way, why it didn't change? I remember I gave class name here, but okay, so I have to change for others. Okay. After this country, actually after this user, I think, yes, after this user we have stars. Right here. I will again copy and paste. It's exactly the same thing as we did here. And this helpful section. Inside this item, after this user, and star, Okay. As always, align item center and gap between. And I'm gonna say image will be 10 pixels. Oops, too small, maybe 14. Okay, much better. And for this HR tag, height 0, and border will be 0.5 pixels, solid and light gray, and margin will be 50 pixels and 0 pixel. Okay, it looks pretty nice. Finally, we can create our box here. Let's open up our right side. Actually, I can close here for now. Let's see what we are going to have. The first section, second, third, fourth, and fifth. So I'm going to create a div for here, and for here. Let's do that. I'm going to say price section. After that, a p tag. Let's say details section. And finally, a button. Okay. Inside this price section, we are going to have this title and this price. So let's say H3. And let's say 59.99. And let's say it's H2. It will be bigger. And this p tag, let's copy and paste. This details section, 2 items with this icon and span, icon, span. Clock.png and a span here. Actually, I'm gonna wrap this with a different div here. First item. And it's gonna be 2 days delivery. And one more item. And it's gonna be recycle. And 3 revision. And finally, this button. But before, I forgot here. After this, details. Let's say features. It's gonna be green check. And a span. Let's copy here. Like that. And 3 more items. And after that, finally, I can say continue. Let's see. Okay. Let's open up our style file. I'm gonna take this here. And I'm gonna open the right side. Firstly, I'm gonna give a border. It's gonna be light gray. Let's give some padding inside and border radius. I'm gonna say display flags, flags direction column. For each item, 20 pixels space. And as I said, it's gonna be position sticky. Remember how we are doing this? If we are using sticky positioning, you have to write here any position and it's going to be 150 pixels. Like that. But if I scroll, as you can see, it's not sticky that because its height is 100% here. To prevent this, I'll say maximum height and it's going to be 500 pixels. And right now, as you can see, it's sticky. After those images, it's gonna look better. Let's say price section. Align item center, justify content space between. And remember, we have h2 and h3 tags. Font weight 300, font weight 500. And after this price section, we have a p tag. I'm gonna say color will be gray, and let's give some margin between top and bottom. And what else we have? What was the name of this section? Details, I think. Price. Okay, details. As always, align item center, justify content, space between. And I'm gonna decrease this font size. And for each item, remember, it includes one image and one span. Again, display flags, align item center, some gap, and the image will be 10 pixels. Right now it's gonna look better, as you can see. And there's a problem here. Even if our content is smaller than 500, its height is still 500. To prevent this, I'm gonna give here height maximum content. In this case, if it's smaller than 500, it's gonna contain all our content. If it's bigger, it's gonna stay there. It's not gonna be bigger than 500. Okay, after these details, I will say features. For each item, I'm gonna say display flags, gap, font weight will be 300, color will be gray. As you can see, it's horizontal. To prevent this, I'm gonna say flags direction column here, and let's give gap. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna decrease this image size, inside item, 14 pixels. By the way, those images are too small. Let's make this 20. Okay. And finally, this button. After features, I'm gonna say button, background color, this green color, I'm gonna give padding, text color will be white, I'm gonna delete border, thicker font weight, font size will be a little bit bigger, and finally cursor pointer. And awesome. By the way, there is a line here, but I forgot adding this here. Let's open up Navbar. Okay, we have a HR here, but I didn't add here. Okay. So we have created our single page also. Right now we can create our geeks page. So I'm gonna close my tabs here. And let's open up my geeks. I'm gonna create here a container. And firstly, I will create this h1 tag. And right after that, we'll need a table here. By the way, I forgot this button. So I'm gonna create a div here, which includes this title and button, and after this table. So let's say title, h1 is gonna be geeks, and a button, by the way, is gonna be a link. And add new geek. After this title, I can create my table. And my titles will be image, title, price, orders, and action. Maybe I can say sales, because it's going to be a number. And after that, let's create our first items. First one will be our gig image. So I'm going to copy and paste my image. And second one is going to be title. Let's say gig 1. It's going to be price, any number, sales number, and one more TD, and it's going to be a button. Delete.png. Let's give a style. My gigs, display flags, content center, and I'm gonna say my container. It will be 1400. I'm gonna give a padding 50 and 0 pixels. I will say display flags. Remember, it's a div, and justify content will be space between. So I'm gonna separate this title and this button. I can say align item center to center them, and I will say button. I'm gonna give my green background color. Text color will be white. Font weight. I'm gonna delete this border. Let's give some padding, and finally cursor pointer. Oops, it didn't apply because I didn't say button here. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna give a width for this table. After this title, I'm gonna say table, and its width will be 100%. And for each TR, I'm gonna give height. It's gonna be bigger, of course. We cannot see right now because of this image, but you are gonna understand better right now. I will say TD and image insight, height 25, object width cover. This is our product image, and for this delete image, I can give different class name. Let's say delete. And for this one, let's say image. For this icon, it's going to be smaller, and cursor pointer. So if I add more item here, let's copy this. If I don't give this height, let me explain. As you can see, it looks a little bit weird. This is why I'm giving height here. By the way, I can align those items, those titles. So I will say TH, and text align will be left. Okay, perfect. In our example, as you can see, we have a different color for even items. So I'm gonna come here for each TR. I will say add child, and for even childs, I'm gonna give different background color. And it's gonna be this color. Like that. So let's do the same thing for orders. I'm just gonna change those icons. So I'm gonna open my menu, and actually I can copy here and paste for orders. And here and paste for this orders page. Of course, I should change my names. It's gonna be orders. And here, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna change this title. Orders. We are not gonna need this button here. And I'm gonna change my table. We have image, title, price, but I'm gonna change here. If we are the seller, it's gonna be buyer. If we are the buyer, here is gonna be seller. To do that, I'm gonna write here a logic. Let's say const current user. Remember what we have done in the Navbar component. I've created here a current user. We can use it. So it's gonna be title, price, buyer, and contact. Title, price. I'm gonna write here a condition, and here is gonna be contact. So I'm gonna say if current user is seller, write here buyer. If it's not, write here seller. Like that. As you can see, it's buyer right now. That's because we are a seller. And I'm gonna change those icons. And it's gonna be message. Okay, perfect. Actually, those icons are better than this one, I think. Smaller is better. And what else? We have messages. Again, I can copy and paste. Messages. And this CSS file. Like that. Let's check. Okay. Let's see what we are gonna change. We are gonna have buyer, last message, date, and action. Let's update them. We don't need image. It's gonna be buyer name. Let's say John Doe. Last message, I'm gonna write here any random message. Actually, I can create here a message, const message. And it's gonna be this random message. I can use it there. Date, let's say 1 day ago, and action will be a button mark as red. We don't need this button. Okay. So I can copy this row and I can delete others. And I can duplicate. Like that. As you can see, in our example, we are not showing the old text here. We should just cut this message. Let's do that. I'm gonna choose my messages. And I will take its substring 0 to 100. If it's more than 100, it's not gonna show. And also I can add here like that, 3 dots, perfect. Let's make some changes here. Firstly, as you can see, first 2 items are green. That's because we haven't read them yet. As you can see, we can click here, or when we click, we can open up the message section. But those 3 messages are different. That's because they are old messages. Let's do that. For these 2 messages, I'm going to say class name and active. Like that. I'm going to open here. We don't need this button. Actually, I'm going to use it for this button. So I will copy. We don't have any image. I'm going to say padding 10. And this height will be 100. It's going to be bigger. Like that. And I'm going to delete here. Actually, I'm going to change. And it's going to be our active class. If it's active, it's going to be green like that. What else? Let's change colors. This one will be black, this and this one will be gray. And finally, we can give style for this button. So I'm going to choose my first child. And I will say font weight 500. And for second and for third child, color will be gray. Like that. Okay. And for this button, I will come here and say button and paste my style here. Like that. By the way, for those items, we don't need any button. Let's delete them. First one, second one, and I'm gonna delete here. Okay, perfect. And I should add a link here. So I'm gonna choose my messages. Like that. And we are going to open the single message. Of course, class name, don't forget. It's going to be link. And okay, I will click and we are here. Let's see. I will click and as you can see, we have this chat section. I will close here and open up my message. Inside, let's create container. I will create span, breadcrumbs. Let's copy this. And I'm going to add here a link. Like that. 2 messages. We are going to turn back. Okay. And after that, I can create this message section. And write section. In this section, we are going to have an input and a button. Let's say text area is going to be a big text area, not input. So let's say placeholder, write a message. And I'll say button, send. Like that. And for this area, I'm going to need this message item, which includes a user image and its message. So let's say item, image. I will paste here my image and a p tag. And inside, let's copy and paste this message. Okay, let's give some style. I will say message inside container, breadcrumbs, messages, and write. Let's give display flags, justify content center. I'm gonna give width, it's gonna be a little bit smaller, and I will say margin. Font weight will be 300, font size 13 pixels, and color will be 555. Like that. And I can give a margin here. Actually, for these messages, I can give 30 and 0 pixel. Like that. For messages, I can give some padding inside. Display flags, flags direction column, and gap between each message. And the important thing is it's going to be 500 and overflow will be scroll. It means if it's bigger than 500, like here, we will be able to scroll. And for each item, it's going to be display flags, gap between the user image and the message. And I'm going to give here maximum width. It's going to be 600. So if our message is too long, it's not going to be bigger than 600. And font size will be, let's say, 18. And for the p tag inside, I'm going to give padding, background color, light gray, maybe softer, we will see. And I'm going to give border radius. It's going to be 0 pixel at the beginning. Let me explain. As you can see, this edge is 0 pixel and other edges are 20 pixels. Like that. Let's take care of this image so we can see better. Height 40, border radius, and object fit. Okay, let's make this softer. It's too dark. Something like that. Okay, maybe this text. Let's give font weight maybe. Let's try. I don't know which one is better. I think 300 is better. And for the second item, as you can see, this is our message. So its background color will be different and our image will be in this side. So I'm going to create one more item here. And I will add one more class name. It's going to be owner. Let's come back. Inside this item, I will say if it's owner, flags direction will be row reverse. In this case, our image is here. And I'm going to change this edge. Let's say P, border radius 20, 0, 20, 20. And also background color will be royal blue and the font color is going to be white. But I want to move this item here at the end of the container. To do that, I will come here and say align self flags end. Right now it's in the end of the flags box. Awesome. Let's create some more items. As you can see, perfect. What about this section? It's going to be display flags, align item center, and justify content space between. So we can separate them like that. And this text area, 80%, height 100 pixels, padding 10 pixels, and I'm gonna give some border and light gray. Now finally, border radius 10 pixels. Okay, awesome. By the way, I can add here an HR tag. Let's do that. Before this right section, I'm gonna say HR. Height will be 0, border will be 0.5 pixels, solid and light gray. Of course, I can give some margin here, margin bottom, and maybe a little bit softer. Okay. And finally, this button. We have created this button. It's really easy. Just padding, some background color. Color will be white. I'm gonna change font weight. It's gonna be thicker. I'm gonna delete border, border radius, and cursor pointer. Like that. Maybe I can increase this width. Maybe 100 pixels. Okay. Actually, this version is cleaner than this one. This font weight is too much and this color is too dark and there is no space here. Perfect. And what else we have? We have here add new gig page. Let's check. Okay, as you can see, we will have two sections, left and right, and we are going to have some inputs, file inputs, text inputs, and this select method. And finally, a button. Let's do that. I'm going to close them and open up my add page. Let's add quickly our container. We are going to have an h1 tag and it's going to be add new gig. And I'm going to create one more div and it's going to be our sections, left and right. And inside this left side, we are going to have some inputs. Let's see, as you can see, text input and select here. Let's create them first. Firstly, I will say label. It's going to be title and input here. And I will say placeholder. I'm going to write here my example. We cannot do a single quote because of this one. It should be double. And one more label here is going to be category. And we are going to have a select here. Let's give a name and ID. It's going to be categories. And our first option. Let's say design. And others. Web development. Animation. They are not important because we are going to be changing in the next tutorial, but for now they can stay. And what else? We have file inputs And after we have this text area and finally a button. Let's create another label here. I will say cover image. Let's create others actually. Upload images and description. Let's create input and it's gonna be a file input and one more, but this time it's gonna be multiple. We will be able to upload multiple images. And finally, text area. Maybe I can increase here. And let's give placeholder. Like that. And a button. I will say create. Okay. What about here? Input, text area, number input, number input. Let's create them first. By the way, as you can see, we can give minus. We should give some rules for those numbers. I will say label, service title, short description, delivery time, revision number, add features, what else, and price. Okay, it's gonna be an input, it's gonna be a placeholder, short description is gonna be a text area. I'm gonna paste my placeholder like that. Delivery time will be input, but this time type will be number and it's gonna be minimum 0. Sorry, 1. It shouldn't be under 1. And one more thing, one more number. Add features is gonna be some inputs. Let's give our placeholders. And one more number here. Let's see. Okay. So we are ready to give our style right now. I'm gonna open my CSS file. I'll say add main container and our container div. I will say display flags, justify content, center. I'm gonna give my width and padding as we always do. And firstly, h1 tag. I will say color gray. Font weight 300. Like this. I can give a margin here. 30 pixels. And my sections. Remember, it includes left and right side. So I will say justify content space between. And I'm gonna give a huge gap here, 100. I will say left and right. Actually, I can write them together, that because there are some common styles. Like display flags, flags direction, column, gap between each item 10 pixels, justify content space between. Like that. So let's change those labels. I'll say label, color will be gray, and font size will be 18. Oops. Like that. Okay, let's check. Perfect. And for inputs, text areas, and for this select button, I want to give some padding. After this label, I will say for input, for select, and for text area, padding will be 20 pixels, like that. By the way, I can give flex for each item for this left and right sides, so I can increase their sizes. Let's say flex 1. As you can see right now they are bigger. Let's check. And finally, for this button, border none, padding 20, background color, text color. I'm gonna increase font weight and font size and cursor pointer, like that. And that's all, I think. Let's check. We can add here new items. Maybe I can change those colors. They are too dark, but anyway, they can stay. If I make any changes, you can find this in the GitHub repository. We have orders, messages, single message, homepage, category page, and a single gig here. Okay, I haven't added any payment page for now because I don't know which technology I'm gonna use. Maybe we can use a Stripe page, or maybe we can create our own page. Just let me know in the comments what kind of payment you want to see for this project. And that's all, guys. I hope you liked it. If you learned something new today, please like the video. You can support Lama Dev by using the link in the description below or by joining the channel. Don't forget to follow Lama Dev's social media accounts. I will try to share daily development tips, design examples, and some other coding related stuff. I highly recommend you to follow them. And that's all. I hope I will see you in the next tutorial. Goodbye.